Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Media Cocktail Podcast, Episode 1. This is a new podcast I'm starting out with some buddies of mine. So you might be asking, another fucking podcast? Really? I already listened to like 12 of them. How is this any different from any other ones that I read? Well, or listened to, actually. You don't read a podcast. Anyway, no, but this podcast is mostly a media digest kind of podcast where it's like, oh, we're talking about video games, or we talk about books, or we talk about music, or whatever. And it's all mixed together like a cocktail, if you will. I'm not Brandon, by the way, for those that don't know. I have a YouTube channel called Not Brandon, and this is our podcast where we just talk about like games, movies, and other nonsense. So if that seems like your thing, stick around. I'm joined by some friends of mine, a fellow YouTuber, or former YouTuber, I guess. He doesn't really upload anymore. My buddy Will, or Lost Gamer. Will, how's it going?
It's going all right. Can't really complain.
And I'm also joined by my editor on a lot of the videos that I work with. Not video editor, but script editor, Michael. Michael, how's it going?
It's going pretty all right. Got my Boomer Stella Artois. Is that how you pronounce it? Artois?
Sure.
Oh, that's Belgium.
Sure.
I'm pretty sure that like some people fluent in that language are gonna be angry with me, but yeah, I'm doing pretty all right. Can't complain. Just came back from a bike ride, so I might be a little sweaty, but it's all good.
Listen here, sweaty. You ever hear that? That is so funny.
Yeah. Listen here, sweaty.
So every episode of the Media Cocktail Podcast, like similar to various other media analysis podcasts, we're talking about what we did this week, like what video games we play, what movies we watch, whatever. And Michael, when you start?
What have I been doing?
I don't know. I asked you.
I know you asked me. I've mainly not been really doing too much. I've actually been busy with my... this week I've actually been really busy with, like, all my studies and stuff like that, but whenever I've had, like, a free time, I've mainly been doing, trying to beat Yakuza 0 on Legend difficulty, because Yakuza is my... I think, at this point, I think it might be my favorite series. Like, not unironically. I just put so much time at this point. That, and also...
And you still have, like, plenty... Oh, you still have a lot of time to go, don't you?
Oh, yeah, if I'm going to be doing, like, Legend, and, Legend is already bad enough. It's, like, a whole new, like, other playthrough of the game. But there's also, like, the completion list stuff for nearly all the games, and that's several hours on its own.
It's going to be a fun time of Mahjong right there.
Oh, yes. I know... I learned the entire game of Mahjong, not well, mind you, but I've learned Mahjong just so I could do completion list stuff. And
Proud of yourself, man?
Absolutely not. Not even in the slightest. But I've been doing that, and also I've been reading the book Strangers in a Strange Place, which, a little bit of a problem with at first, with how confusing it could be at times, but... And there's one thing that I kind of got spoiled with, which is a little bit of a yikers, but... other than that, I've been really enjoying it. It's a very well developed book, very interesting concepts. All in all, quite enjoyable.
What was confusing about it, Mike?
It's just like it's specifically with like when you start like some of those chapters. I'm pretty sure that my Will's read a good portion of it. I'd like to say, is that right, Will?
Not at all.
Oh, you have? I thought you and like Will, or you and Asher like read it before.
You just want to out Asher like that in the middle of the podcast?
Absolutely.
Okay, actually, yeah, the first time I read it, I did get a little ways in, but no, just go on.
But it's like when you like start off, it's like goes into like a bunch of like weird, like almost like nonsensical stuff, like. And I'm pretty sure it's like supposed to be like from a Martian perspective, but it's still like kind of. Instead of, like, tossing, like, the softball to you, it hits you in the fucking face. And it's like, alright, I'll go softer next time. Other than that, it's pretty enjoyable. With the exception of that one yiker that I kind of been spoiled about.
Alright, Will, how was your week?
Well, I've been replaying Breath of the Wild again.
Oh, who'd have thought that a man with the title of Link fan would be replaying a Legend of Zelda game.
I know, what a shocker.
Yeah, Link fan is one of Will's alter egos, so.
But like after replaying Age of Calamity, it just got me that feeling of, man, I actually want to explore this land again instead of just hacking and slashing my way through these guys. So I've been doing a no fast travel playthrough of the game, and I really do like it. As tedious as it get from trying to get from point A to point B at times. Although I mainly do that via horseback, and I did do a decent amount of back and forth or backtracking.
I know that you and I have like talked about it like before, but I guess how do you feel about like fast travel in general?
So I don't mind the concept of fast travel. It can be a nice concession for players who just want to get from some point A to point B, as quickly as possible. Because they don't have all day. With that said, its implementation can be very hit or miss in some games. Mainly due to the fact that, say in Skyrim, right? That game's fast travel is pretty powerful. You can go from any place that you want as soon as you discover it. Or hell, the horse carriage ride takes you to any of the major cities.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that means that the game was designed around the fact that you can fast travel everywhere. So you will have quests that will ask you to walk from across the freaking map. And because they expect you to fast travel either at it or close to it. And that can really suck for people who can't or who refuse to fast travel.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, I can kind of understand what you mean by that. I would still prefer fast travel because sometimes, I don't have as much as it is very immersion breaking. I suppose I am still on the thing of
Well, as the person with the clearly objectively correct answer here, fast travel is one. It's really not really a debate topic. It's more kind of centered around the design in video games, whereas hey, it's almost like a concession by the developers. It's our traversal isn't all that entertaining, so we're just gonna have it be easy for you to teleport from one place to the other, and we kind of understand that we put these quests in a weird place. The actual best answer for this kind of question is one, make your traversal a fun gameplay element that isn't just push joystick forward, press A, or hold A. Maybe it should be something that's more involved, something along the lines of Death Stranding, where you have to constantly think about where you're actually traversing. And then also, maybe it shouldn't be...
make the actual act of traversing, the game I usually think about is Just Cause 3. You have a wingsuit, you have jetpacks, and you have the grappling hook, and it makes just going from 1 mile to the other mile really fun.
You can vary up the forms of transportation to make it a little more fun, as that can be a good sign of progression. So it's at first you unlock the ability to start driving really cool cars around, and then you start having windsuits, and then by the end of the game you're flying around with a missile wielding jet fighter, and that's just in a modern game. But in a game like Skyrim, wouldn't it be really cool if the ending quest had you fly a dragon around or something like that? And also, maybe we shouldn't have quests that are scattered around the entirety of the map, and maybe they should be trying to make it not feel linear, but they should be in a linear way. So it's you're never going to one place and then having to feel like you have to travel across the map in order to do something,
So funny you mentioned that, and I was gonna bring this up because you mentioned something about fast travel being immersion breaking, right, Michael?
Yeah, it could be immersion breaking at times.
It doesn't necessarily have to be, because there's one game that made fast travel more involved, and that was Morrowind. Because at the start, you only have those those weird creatures that basically act like taxis that goes to only major cities.
Okay.
So you have at the start a limited form of fast travel. Now, because of that, a lot of the quests are actually designed around, or a lot of the fetch quests sort of stuff, give me a ceramic bowl. Well, that can be easily done within the same town. And when they generally ask you to go out into other areas, well, you can easily just fast travel to a nearby point and then just work your way from there.
There can be
so
more reasons why you can do it, right?
Far.
You can teleport, your character has the ability to teleport, or your character has the ability to fly, whatever, yeah.
And actually, later in the game, if you do the Mage's Guild, you do unlock the ability to teleport between Mage's Guild, so you have another form of fast travel. And even then, I'm pretty sure you've seen those YouTube videos of people drinking skooma or whatever, and they just, fly across the map. So, early on, yes, it's a very slow grind, but you work your way up to get around faster. So it feels more well earned when you get there.
And it's also like making the world more interactive in of itself. You know, like it would be really like kind of boring if like most of the world is just empty grass or empty like buildings that you can't really go into. But if you make the world more entertaining, you know, like more like interesting to look at, like almost theme park like, where like each zone has like an interesting characteristic of its own, that'll make it more appealing to travel around.
Yeah.
And also, some of these games are like hundreds of hours long, so at a certain point, like no matter what you do, it's gonna feel old. So maybe we need to like have discussions about how much content do we want in a video game of that scale, you know?
And see, playing through Breath of the Wild without fast travel makes me, that was a good point, because as much as I love standing around looking at the scenery, it's gorgeous. After a while, it kind of gets a little tiring to look at and like getting ambushed in nearly the exact same places. So, and the whole game is about Breath of the Wild. Like, the world is living and breathing. Like, there's a lot of small touches you just never really think about, like how everything sways with the wind, or the fact that the clouds actually will cover the sun. Oh god, it's gorgeous. But I feel like to make that world truly more alive is to make it more dynamic. Like, could you imagine if the seasons could change? Like, I feel like that would add at least some more variety to the environments.
It's either like certain biomes have certain weather patterns. Like a lot of games have weather patterns now. Like there's a lot of like active weather, and even like some first person shooters, like if you sit around for long enough it'll rain or whatever.
I mean, like, every game can rain, but I mean, like, because I know you have the one corner of Hyrule where it will snow, but could you imagine if Central Hyrule did eventually get snow?
My biggest problem with like Breath of the Wild is that like it's actually like very shallow for what it is. And I never felt like, I mean, the biggest problem for me is like the story, but like outside of like the world elements, it's like you're doing the same 3 tasks. There's occasionally like a side quest that you can do, and those are usually like pretty like, I hate to use the word like generic, but like they're kind of like pretty like, it's like simple, and also sometimes like it's just like undiscoverable. It feels like it's like, oh, you have to go talk to this person, but it's like you could have easily just skipped that.
And actually, I agree with you as well. Well, I think what might have helped a little bit more, especially if you're just going to be doing the exact same 3 tasks, is make the environments have a story to tell. Because you go to a lot of these ruins, and like a lot of them are just broken beyond repair, or like just so broken you can't even recognize it anyways. Or you got the ones that are still somewhat intact, but you either can never go inside.
You know what? You know what's a game series that I think is very underrated when it comes to like talking about fast travel and world design? Well, the world design, they talk about it a lot. The Soulsborne series.
Dark Souls in particular.
Yeah, like they have some really interesting, because it makes you want to traverse. First off, you have to traverse the whole thing in order to unlock fast travel in the first place. Most of the world is like really good to look at, and a lot of the level design just makes sense and it just flows together really nicely.
It's designed around the fact that you can't fast travel very easily, so it's designed to have like various shortcuts that you need to use to get anywhere quickly.
A consequence of that is that they're a little more linear than like a traditional like open world like RPG, but.
And plus, in Dark Souls' case, some of these shortcuts can be a little bit bizarre, like how many elevators there just happen to be.
Yes, absolutely.
Or there's that one door that leads to, or in the Undead Birth that like blocks the stairway, and just for whatever reason it's locked on one side, but you can just easily open it on the other. And it's like, couldn't I just took my arm through the other end and just unlock it then? Like, what the hell?
It's also like, who built this? Like,
yeah,
how deep does this possibly go? I'm like the one that the like video game level that most screams like, this doesn't make any sense that anybody would build something like this, is when we were playing Resident Evil 6. Well,
oh god,
and what was it Leon's chapter where it just kept going down and down and down.
we go to the Earth's core and just slingshot our way back up into the outside the cathedral.
Yeah, and at the end of the level, you just wind back right up where like you started. It was like, what?
Yeah, are you talking about in like that weird like mine shaft place?
Yeah, like it just goes on and on and on. It's like, who built this?
What kind of actual alien built this?
Like, for those who have played Dark Souls, and wants to appreciate the level design far more, go play Resident Evil 6. Like, it is jarring. Anyways, but beyond that, though, yes, the level design in Dark Souls is, like, masterfully done. It has a great sense of scale, and just I love the fact that the world just feels so coherent. It is actually amazing.
Yeah, Bloodborne and Dark Souls specifically are like textbook like design, level design.
Yeah, and even Demon Souls, like, I feel like some people don't give credit to how well the level designs are done in there too. Since there are still like the occasional shortcuts, but I feel like they make more logical sense. Like, you open gates in a castle, or the elevators is in a mine shaft, so it's used to like lift rocks.
Oh, that's right. And we're so we were talking about Breath of the Wild. Is it Breath of the Wild the only thing you've been doing this week?
No, I was actually also playing Devil May Cry, because I got the HD collection during the winter sale, and I got kind of in the mood to play through some of them again. And yeah, I beat Devil May Cry 1 so far.
Oh, now you're on the worst one.
Yeah, gun simulator.
Oh yeah, it is. Yeah, it really is the greatest third-person shooter of all time. It is the best Devil May Cry game. Eat it, Devil May Cry 5.
To quote Vinny from Vinesauce, please play DMC2. It's the best.
I will say, like, I like that, DMC2 has a reticle, or aiming reticle, so I actually know where the hell Dante is aiming before I just suddenly fling off the map.
Yeah.
Because going back to DMC1, I really, really still like it. I mean, it is simple but effective, as the line goes. Because you don't have style switching, so you just have to rely on whatever combos you got going on your weapons.
Yeah, I've actually been wanting to. I'm probably going to start pretty soon playing the DMC collection. I actually never really grew up with like PlayStation. I grew up with GameCube and Xbox when I was growing up. So I'm pretty late into all like the classics of PlayStation. So I never really grew up with like God of War nor like DMC. But I've been wanting to give them a shot pretty soon. And it seems pretty interesting. I heard that. Is there? I guess to someone who wants to go into it pretty soon, is there anything that you would recommend a new person like me? Because I've heard that the series is really unkind to new players. I guess you could say.
It very much can be. Funny enough, the reason I got into Devil May Cry was because my dad got a copy of 1 for years ago. He got stuck at the first boss, which is like a magma spider, and I don't recall him playing through the game after that. But I picked up the game myself and I played through it. Never beat it on normal, so I was on easy on a Mac, and I still sucked balls at it. So yes, it is very unforgiving. Like I said, even on easy, it's like, oh, if you can't really like fuck around a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
If anything, like for DMC1 especially, always remember to taunt and use your devil trigger.
Oh, I didn't know the devil trigger was in this game.
Yeah, you get it after you get Alistair, which you get in like mission 2, so it's not that far in. Actually, funny enough, this was my first time actually being able to beat the game on normal. Because last time I did that, I got all the way to like mission 20, and I never went back. I got super frustrated. But back then, I didn't realize how useful Devil Trigger is. And actually, it's like amazing just how well a lot of the mechanics work in Devil May Cry, because your Devil Trigger restores when you hit enemies. If I remember correctly, it restores when you hit enemies, when you hit when enemies hit you, and when you use your taunt in the right moment. Because when you use your taunt, you don't just fill up like a partial amount. It can fill up like a bar or 2.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and you only need like 3 bars filled to utilize Devil Trigger, so it really comes in handy. And just to give some context, like the very first boss, I had like so much issue with, but playing it now, knowing what I know, he was like a complete cakewalk. Granted, I watched a playthrough of someone doing a no hit Dante must die mode, and after watching that, it just felt astonishing how fast his HP went down.
Mm-hmm.
It is crazy.
I've only ever played, I've played 3 of the DMC games. I played DMC, like the first level of it. I played Devil May Cry 1. I killed the spider boss, and I never got past that point. Like, I right after you kill it, like, I never got any farther than that. And I played, like, the first 2 levels of Devil May Cry 5, and then that was it.
I gotta say, though, like, with Devil May Cry 1, there's a couple things I miss about it, and, like, one of them is how you use ebony and ivory. Because on easy mode, you can just hold the shoot button, and he'll automatically start shooting, right? But on normal and higher, you have to hold down, like, the RB button, and you have to actually mash the button to keep firing. And I actually kind of like that, especially since the controller rumbles every time you fire. And so, like, there's actually, like, this great feeling I get out of having to fire out of ebony and ivory.
I feel like it would just start to annoy me after a little bit. Every time I fired, the controller rumbles. Sometimes I get a little annoyed with with it, because it makes my after a while it makes my hands just feel weird. If it vibrates too much and too often.
I mean, I guess you could either just not use ebony and ivory all the time then. But I mean, granted, I mainly use them in short bursts. Like if they're in the air, I'll fire off a couple of shots and then use Alistair to finish them off.
Mm-hmm.
Either that or there will be some enemies where I will just keep my distance and I'm just firing away get the fuck back.
All right. Well, when I get to it, I think that would be. I'll get to it eventually. Can't promise you a specific date though.
I expected you to finish it by tomorrow.
Oh fuck! I got a deadline.
Yeah, you could. It's a 5-hour game, man. You can do it. Actually, it took me 4 hours to beat it. It's a 4-hour game, dude. You can do it.
But since I tend to not do well for during my first playthroughs of games, it might take me 20 hours.
10.
15, and we'll call it even.
13, and that's final.
Deal.
Anyways, but another thing I also miss is the atmosphere. Since Devil May Cry was originally Resident Evil 4, but then changed partway through development. So I get that the Resident Evil elements managed to leak through, but none of the other Devil May Cry games really attempted that kind of atmosphere again, like the horror gothic feel.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's kind of a shame. It helps give it way more of an identity within the franchise. To say Devil May Cry 2, where it just kind of is there. Or even in 3, I like the design of the tower, but I still prefer just the horror, especially since because not only because it is still a mansion, right? So you can still find journals and diaries of people who once preoccupied that mansion. So it gives the environment a history and more of a character, rather than just being a simple window dressing, which I kind of get the feeling of in 3, which was just I kind of get the feeling that because it's just a tower, they're okay, and let's just throw in anything we got.
Yeah, I can get that, but I think that we should start moving on a little bit. Brendan, what have you been playing?
I haven't actually been playing anything.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've been occasionally playing Super Hexagon. I've actually been pretty distracted by political things. I'm kind of trying to get active in that, so I've been talking to people and debating some things and other things that are just I don't think are worth talking about. But I did watch.
At this point, why aren't you just a political major?
I thought about doing it as a side thing, but I don't know. I mean. Anyway, so what I did this week, I didn't really do much. I'm playing occasionally playing Super Hexagon, so I would play that for literally 30 seconds to a minute, and then I move on to something else. I've actually been watching a lot of movies this week. I watched a couple things. Let me pull up my Letterboxd. I rewatched some movies that I watched as not a lot as a kid, but like it was shown as a kid. So like my dad's a big fan of like John Wayne and like the cowboy movies, and so as part of that, he used to watch a movie called The Quiet Man, which is a movie about a boxer that moves to Ireland. And holy crap, is it misogynistic as all hell. Like, it is so bad.
Really?
Yeah, it was really bad. Like, they were literally, like, talking about, like, ownership of her and, like, things like that. Like, it was, like, crazy misogynistic. There are some people that were, like, coping in the reviews being like, oh, actually, it's a critique of that. And it's like, I don't know, buddy. Like he never the main character John Wayne only kisses her without consent. Like he forces himself on her like all the time. They literally like hand him a stick at his wedding and being like, "Here's your wife beating stick." Like it's so bad. Like it's so bad.
That sounds like a parody.
It's borderline parody. It was so bad. Anyway,
it does. It sounds like something I would like scary movie, but for like old westerns.
Yeah, it wasn't a western. It's a movie that takes place in Ireland, and a lot of it is shot in Ireland, and it looks gorgeous. Like the footage that they got there, like of the mountains and like of the lakes and stuff, it's great. The cinematography is like brilliant, and everybody like acts really well. So when I grade movies, if you want to figure out what I'm watching week to week, you can go to Letterboxd/Brendan. And I should come up. I'll send a link in our Discord chat here so you can see what I've been watching and what my ratings are.
That sounds very... I'm surprised that you got to that one first. Sounds like a pretty pretty big thing for the market. Letterboxd/Brendan.
Yeah. It was a brand new website when I first came there like 5 years ago. Anyway, I put the link down there. So you guys should make an account too to follow like movie reviews and stuff like that. It's kind of fun. I enjoy it. I don't know.
Anyway, you watch Bayonetta?
I did. I'll get to that. So anyway, with The Quiet Man, it was really interesting. The best part of the movie is I don't think anybody here is gonna watch it, and it's like old as hell. It's like 1952. Like it's a really old movie.
Hey, you never know. There could be that one guy.
There's a bit, spoilers for The Quiet Man, I guess. You had 50 years to watch it, or over 50 years to watch it, 70 years to watch it.
70.
Yeah, you had like 70 years to watch it, so like, anyway. The reason why he flees to Ireland is because he was born there, for one, but he was so little, he didn't really remember it very well. His mother had recently died and told him about it, and so it was like the place of his dreams to like move there. And so he moves there. But, like, a lot of the characters don't know why he's there, and they kind of, like, make fun of him because, you know, he's an American. And he, like, doesn't understand the customs or whatever. The scene where you figure out why he left America is really well done. So he gets into a bar fight with one of the people that doesn't want him in town, and he knocks him out, like, just punches his light outs. And we get this short scene that is so good. The scene is that he kills a guy while boxing. And so he's like in the middle of this fight, and the editing is actually really, really, really good, and like kind of ahead of its time, like almost like it reminds me of a movie that comes out a lot later. That I can't remember the name of the movie, but it's a Scorsese movie, and anybody that knows movies is gonna know what I'm talking about. Anyway, John this guy, and he dies, like just flat out dies, and he just stares at it, and he just like doesn't know what to do, and then it just cuts back to him like waking up from being knocked out. It's so good. Like it was like oh, that makes so much sense. Like he fled the country. Like he was worried that like he was gonna get arrested for what he did, even though it was clearly an accident. Like really interesting stuff. Like really deep stuff for the kind of movie that it is. Like super misogynistic, stupid, whatever.
But I hope that you know, Brendan, that I've been waiting 48 years to watch that movie, and you spoiled it.
Well, no, I mean I didn't spoil.
I can't believe
I just said like what happens. I didn't say like how it happens. So you can watch it and be like, oh wow, that does look really cool. Although they do kind of ruin it later on because they like.
And by the way, I guess I'm like 70 years old. I guess.
There's another interesting. I don't understand why people do this. A lot of movies like to treat the audience like they're like a group of morons. So like they had the same scene again, except it was way less dramatic, and it was just them like looking at newspaper clippings, being like, "Yep, I did that."
Yep, that is me. I in fact did that.
Yep, I killed that guy in a boxing thing, and that's why I don't like fighting. It's like, well, no, obvious. It's so obvious why you don't like fighting. We just watched a whole like scene where you kill the dude. Of course you don't like fighting. We're not stupid.
It's for the people who just walked in and saw the TV.
Yeah.
Like 20 minutes after
Yeah,
that
it was
scene.
literally like 30 minutes after that scene. That movie is way too long too. It's 2 hours. It feels like 4. It's like...
I was kind of picturing like him looking at the camera directly to the audience while saying that, just like, "Yep, that's totally me. You got that?"
Yeah, with like finger guns.
Yeah, like he like visits a pastor. Oh yeah, no, again for a misogynistic reason. Like his wife refuses to sleep with him because he didn't earn the respect of her because he didn't get her money or something. Like it was like bizarre. Like every other scene was like, wow, this is really tropey. Wow, this is really lame. That's really not okay anymore.
Yeah, it's very similar to like, because like for example, for like the book I was talking about like before, Strangers in a Strange Place, there is some, and that's kind of like some of the things I heard that was like very yikes, was do with like some very misogynistic things, but at the same time I could realize that's like a product
Exactly.
of its own
Like
time.
I don't grade movies based off like what the contents in there is, as long as it makes sense for the story. Like I don't really like dock points for that. I know people that do, like they see like Birth of a Nation or whatever, and they're like, this is horribly racist. They're right, it is horribly racist, but it's also like a product of its time, and it should be graded as such, you know. Like I wound up giving Quiet Man like a 7 out of 10 because it wasn't like a badly filmed movie, you know. It wasn't like excellent for its time, but it wasn't like bad for its time either, you know. And I think that you have to have like kind of like a balanced perspective when you review things like that. If you care about being like professional about the way that you critique movies, if you don't care and you just grade it based off of whether you liked it or not, then at that point, yeah, sure. Be like,
Totally valid.
Yeah, you know.
But like,
It's interesting.
yeah, looking at it objectively, it's like, yeah, it's not really like that bad. Just
Yeah, and I try to be like as objective as possible when it comes to filmmaking, because like there's definitely a quality bar set with like how you frame and like there's because you can learn these skills, you know, and as long as you're following those skills, I don't have a problem with it. Or if you're breaking tradition in a interesting way that makes sense, you know.
I mean, for me, I mostly just judge if the story is just good and there's like consistent, you know. The characters' actions have to make sense.
And that was the first movie out of 4 that I watched in the last like 24 hours. I've been doing like 2 movies a day. It's been crazy. I after like a year, so I graduated from film school last year, and since then I really just hated movies. Like I just did not want to watch a movie. I just hated movies. I hated filmmaking. I just didn't want to think about it. After a year though, I've been like, okay, yeah, I can come back to this and I can start watching stuff again. So that's what I've been doing. So I've been going through my Blu-ray collection, and one of the things I've had on my shelf for a long time that I've never watched, and I only bought it because I'm a fan of the Bayonetta games, is Bayonetta Bloody Fate. Holy crap, was that bad?
Oh wow, it comes full circle.
Yeah. So I watched Bayonetta Bloody Fate. It was like kind of fun. They used the main fighting theme like once at the beginning of the movie and then never again. Like the sound editing is so like bad. Like everything feels like really choppy. The action scenes are poorly paced. I don't think the animation, like as terms of like art design, looks bad, but like everything else, it's just so slow and so like it's so cheap. It very much seems like it's like did not have a big budget. And I tried to like grade it on that scale, like, oh, you know, they didn't really have a lot of money, but at the same time, it's like the story was so bad. It was the video game story, but like cut up into pieces, and like different things were placed in different ways, and they would throw characters in there and then not explain it, and they would explain like the whole like point of the game story 3 times. It was so funny. So like in the beginning of the movie, they had an intro. They were like, okay, there's been a war between witches and angels that has been going on for centuries, and there was a child that was lost to time, and she has been rediscovered or whatever. And then they like 20 minutes into the movie, they explain it again. There was a war between angels and then like in the last
Just to make sure you don't forget.
in the last 10 minutes, they explain it again. It's like,
Well, they gotta make sure they get the people who went on bathroom breaks to make sure that they're caught up.
the movie's an hour and a half.
Hey, maybe they were in there for a long time.
Yeah. So that was Bayonetta Bloody Fate. It was like kind of fun. I'm gonna keep it because it has a commentary, so I want to listen to the commentary. They brought some of the video game actors back to voice the characters in it, which is a game that was originally recorded in English, which I had no idea. I would have assumed
yeah.
there was a Japanese text, but no, like it was supposed to be in English.
Fun fact, did you know that the first 3 Devil May Cry games were only voiced in English?
Holy shit, we're going all the way back to Devil May Cry. Okay, then.
Hey, it's the same guy, so, you know.
I guess so, yeah.
They're all connected.
Yeah.
But no, I just think that's interesting that he's just like, yeah, we'll have English people voice his characters. I don't give a shit.
Yeah. So anyway, that was Fate and a Bloody Fate. I'm pretty sure. I'm not certain about this. So someone else, please like comment or whatever, or look this up because I don't care enough to look it up. I think Azula from Avatar was in there too. As one of the voice actors. It was very funny because like every line was like, "Why is Azula here? Why did Azula like shapeshift into this other person?" Anyway.
Just making me realize how old I am. Because I've been wanting to go back to Avatar The Last Airbender for so long. I just never have.
We have entered a decade that will be 20 years old in, which is like unbelievable.
Yeah, 2025.
Yeah. Shrek is 20 years old this year too.
You know, I kind of wonder. So once we pass through the 20s this century, I kind of wonder if we're gonna call this the 20s or if we're gonna keep the 1920s be the 20s.
I have no idea. It's interesting. Well, I guess there was an 1820s,
maybe
right?
double
Nobody
20s?
really like talks about that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe like double 20s?
Yeah. Anyway, there's 2 more.
Who knows? We're fucked anyway.
There's 2 more movies I gotta talk about. So the last 2 movies I watched were Rush Hour and Forbidden Planet. Rush Hour was boring. It was like a traditional like action comedy movie starring Jackie Chan and like some other dude that I don't remember his name. I'm not gonna look it up. I don't care. I bought like a number of years ago the Rush Hour trilogy because one of my friends was like, "Hey, this is really really funny. You should watch it." I was like, "Okay." And I've been a fan of Jackie Chan for like a long time, but I've realized that I've actually never watched one of his movies. I had just seen the scenes out of context and been like, "Oh, that's kind of cool," you know.
That's really funny.
So anyway, I started watching like Jackie Chan movies. Like I have like 5 of them lined up.
You're a fake Jackie Chan
Yeah,
fan.
I know, exactly. And so I watched Rush Hour, and Rush Hour was like so like aggressively 90s. It was like I was like getting hit in the face with 90s. It was really bad actually. And in a lot of cases, like I gave it, I wasn't giving it a 5, but like it was, like a lot of it was like really dumb, and like very racist at the same time. Like they made fun of Chinese, like they called them like. They call them like thin eyes and like all kinds of like dumb shit. They like made fun like
now 5 out of 5 or 5 out of 10.
It's a 5 out of 10. So like if you look at my Letterboxd, it'll say like 2.5 stars. That's a 5 out of 10 because I count a half star as 1 point. So like Bayonetta got a 3 to give you that score. But yeah, Rush Hour gets a 5 because it. So just I'll just say this here because why not? I kind of grade things the same way that YMS or Your Movie Sucks does, which is that. A lot of people like to do like a movie starts out at a 10 and then it goes down as they watch the movie or they find flaws in the movie. I think that's kind of dumb, and I'll tell you why. And Adam makes the same argument because technically, if you make a movie called Paint Drying on a Wall and you point the camera at the wall and you paint the wall and the paint just dries, technically, it's a flawless movie. Technically. Because you didn't mess it up. You did exactly what you intended to do, but you didn't really achieve anything, right? You didn't actually like do anything. You just painted a wall and like put the camera up, you know.
But objectively, it is the best film ever made.
But objectively, yeah, it's technically the best film ever made if you rated it on that scale. So the way I rate movies is everything starts at a 5 and either goes down or up from there, based on achievements. So like if a film like has really really good cinematography, but like everything else kind of sucks, it might go to like a 6 or a 5 or stay like a 4 or whatever. And there's like different things that can influence the score. So like, for example, like there's a movie called Twilight Zone the movie that was in 3 different or 5 different segments. Each segment, one was worse than the other. So like overall, the film got a 3 because there's like the combo score of every segment in together. But like each segment I rated individually. So like the first segment was like a 3, the second segment was a 4, the second segment was a 2. You know, things like that. So yeah, I try to grade things on achievements in filmmaking, and not on did I like it or not. That like implies like, not implies, sorry. Whether I liked it or not kind of like has very little bearing on whether I like it or whether I rate it positively or not. There's actually movies
whether
I give
it's
in,
actually good or not.
Right. Like, there's movies I've given 10 out of 10 that I would never watch again because I hated it. But it's a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Like a movie like that is, like, There Will Be Blood. I hated There Will Be Blood. It was so boring. There was, like, a couple things that were like, oh, that was really cool. But outside of that, I was like, oh my god, I'm bored. But it was masterfully put together. Like, the cinematography was great. The editing was really good. The performance was really, really good. But I never got attached to it. And that's okay. You know, like, you can acknowledge something is, like, well put together, but not like it at the same time, you know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a difference between liking something and calling something good.
Yeah. And I like to push for, like, more boldness in filmmaking and things like that. So I try to do that with my scores. Anyway.
I just think it's fair to expect better out
Yeah.
of art, you know?
Sorry, what?
I just think we should expect better out of
Right.
just art, you know?
You want art to constantly improve, not iterate on things that they've already done. You know, just like not be stagnant. You know.
Yeah, like. Yeah. All right, so should we talk
So,
about the news?
No, there's one more movie. I've got a lot.
Oh, I thought. Oh shit! I thought you were talking about 4. Crap.
We're not talking about DMC again.
No. So yeah, Rush Hour was just like a fine like '90s comedy that like wasn't aggressively offensive, but it wasn't great either. So it's a set of 5. Didn't fuck up too much, but like wasn't all that special either. Forbidden Planet was really interesting. The Forbidden Planet is one of those like famous like sci-fi movies from like the 50s. Like it has Robbie the Robot in it, and I'm sure you might not know the name Robbie the Robot, but if you saw it, a lot of you would be like, "Oh yeah, I've recognized that because I saw that in whatever scientific movie." Because it's actually been something that's been referenced in like a ton of sci-fi material forever. Like it became like super famous in the 50s. And a lot of the directors from the 70s and 80s grew up in the 50s, obviously. So that's why it was like it had like a huge amount of like popularity or referenced to in a lot of movies later on. But again, with Forbidden Planet,
Yeah, I'm
so boring. Holy crap, it was really boring. There were so many scenes of like, this is how this thing works, and this is how this thing works, and here's this society that did this, and here's this. Like, some of the ideas that are being presented are really interesting, and like, the main reason why I gave it a 7 as opposed to like a 6 or a 5 is because the art design and like the set design was amazing. Like some of like you couldn't even tell the difference in some cases between like what was just cardboard cutouts and what was actually like the set. And like the sets had like all kinds of like different like lights and buttons on it, and the sound design is like something that has become like a classic of sci-fi ever since. Like it's like the kind of like I don't know if it's called a xylophone or whatever it is, like, but like, you know, like the classic like alien sound. Like that's kind of where that comes from.
Oh, Sethia's
I think
phone? Something
Yeah.
like that?
yes. Yeah.
It's not a xylophone.
No. But I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. So like some of that classic
I know that-
sound design comes from that. The cover art I think for the movie is also great. So a lot of like the matte paintings and things like that are really really good. And the acting is like standard 50s stuff.
So it's basically just classic sci-fi.
It's just it's like a really classic sci-fi that was otherwise like not all that entertaining. But it's interesting because it takes you back to a different time where the only thing that you had to do in science fiction was present interesting ideas, not really any like kind of like action or whatever. And it does get kind of actiony towards the end. Like there's an interesting subplot set up about why certain groups of people disappeared on a planet. They set that up like kind of early on, but it just takes so long to get there. It's another movie. This movie's like 98 minutes long. It felt like 4. Like it's just they endlessly like half the scenes are like show up, talk, show up, talk. Like there's like not much to it.
But I'm guessing it's trying to be more, or it's like more like Star Trek, I guess, where it's more just about like the ideas that they present rather than just
Right, but it's not really being done in an entertaining way. It's just done in like this really like overly optimistic view of the future, and it's actually like they had very little anticipation of what the future actually was. Something I thought was interesting is they said man landed on the moon by the end of the 21st century, and I was thinking about it when I was watching this, like wow, these people are actually like 13 years away from that happening in real life.
yeah,
You know, like it's
put
really
the plum in their
interesting.
minds.
Yeah. And like the like designs of space are actually really good, considering that they had never seen a photo of the Earth before. Like this is before like I mean there were like satellites and stuff like that, but they had never actually like been out into space yet. They were starting
Yeah,
to
you
do
said
that.
this was you said this was 52, was it?
56.
56. Okay, then yeah. So that Yeah, space knowledge during that time was extraordinarily limited.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was about. They're like, can we breathe in space? I
Is
wonder.
there sound in space? And of course, like the ship is like based on like UFOs. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
War of the Worlds, baby, War of the Worlds.
Yeah, War of the Worlds is another interesting one that we might talk about at some point. I don't know. I might have it as required viewing for the podcast at some point to watch Forbidden Planet because
Required. I didn't know that there was homework.
we're gonna have
Professor
homework on this podcast. It'll be
Brendan.
really good. But we'll get to that later on in the show. All right. Do you guys want to start doing news?
Better time than any.
Yeah, I know. 50 minutes into the podcast. Hell yeah, dude. Let's talk about some news.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Okay.
Cut that out. Cut that out. Anyone, even if you're not Brennan, cut that out.
You don't know the news sound? That famous like news broadcast? Like, you know?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I know. I just find it cringe as fuck. Anyway.
Ugh, cringe.
Cringe. Sweaty.
Win.
All right, so news this week was pretty light. Again, like it's January, so not much is happening. But there's some more interesting news on Cyberpunk. Famous video game journalist extraordinaire, what's his name? Jason Schreier released a report on kind of a collection of information that he got about Cyberpunk's development. That was very fascinating. Obviously, the demo from E3 in 2018 was completely fake. What a surprise there. Although what I thought was very funny is that the studio, not the studio head, but the president of development or something like that, Adam Bowiski, I want to say. This is not in the docket for Will and Mike, but I just wanted to mention this. His comeback to this was very funny. Because he was like, well, you got some of the developers to say that they had a bad time, but sweaty. We have 250
sweaty.
developers here, so clearly that is not...
One of these articles does actually show a screenshot of his response. I think
Yeah, like he implies that like just because his implication is because everybody didn't say they had a bad time, that means nobody had a bad time.
Nobody.
It's just so stupid.
actually the demo wasn't entirely fake. Development just happens to change and things come and go, so you still kind of get the game.
1% of people are victims to crime. Therefore, 99% of people are criminals.
Correct. Like, I guess it's just clear like trying to get out of it nonsense.
Well, yeah, because this was Cyberpunk 2027 from like its inception was hyped up to be the fucking best game in all of existence and ever to be. And when it came out, that it was pretty good. That if you could run it, it was pretty good. But not without some problems. Everyone was like, "You lied to us."
They kind of did in a way, and they kind of
and
didn't.
they let themselves have that perception.
I also find
Sorry, you were saying?
I also find it crazy to think that the game technically hasn't been in development for 8 years, but rather 4.
Yeah, it actually started in 2016, not in 2012 when they announced it.
Yeah, which is insane to me. Like, the management was just a disaster, supposedly from reading these articles. Like, the crunch time was egregious. The fact that, like, apparently some people lost their families over this, it was just, like...
Yeah, it led to, like, divorces and things like that. Yeah, it was very, very crunch-heavy, just kind of just, like, a total mess, it seems. It's just unfortunate. That doesn't need to happen, you know?
Yeah.
No game is worth losing your family over or your life over.
Like, video games really are, like... It's a miracle that they even, like, come out at all, because they require so many people to make and to test, and, like, there's so many variables involved that, like, if one thing is just not placed in right, it can screw up a whole bunch. And if you try to fix it, well, that could cause even more problems.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just like creating video games and just like code in general is just a very finicky process.
So it just baffles me when I hear these stories of crunch time and these developers, like, trying to make these games in, like, a year. And it's like it doesn't have to be like this. Games can take so much longer to make.
Yeah. I mean, there was an excellent
like,
example of this recently of like how to actually manage properly your staff and everybody, which is the development of Hades. The development of Hades was like almost flawless. Like not necessarily that they didn't have their own issues or they didn't run into like struggles or whatever, but is to say that like they never crunched their employees. They had like mandatory vacations at some points, like they forced people like to take a break every now and again. You know, it wasn't that they never had any difficulties, and it wasn't that they never had like times that got really stressful, but they did everything possible to eliminate the possible extra stress or crunch that you could have.
I mean, it really didn't help that apparently they were trying to make their own engine for this game to run, which that ate up a lot of time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just dear God, this really should be a lesson to a lot of developers out there that you need to treat your employees right.
Isn't it like so fucked up that this is still a thing that has to be like said? That's just not not common knowledge just yet for whatever reason. Because we always say things like treat your employees, and it's like, oh, we try. But they never learn. They always think, yeah, if we just put more people and more hours, and it's just going to be better, right? We throw more people at it, and it'll be good.
Yeah, apparently something that was going around the studio was, we made The Witcher 3. We can't possibly screw this up. Which is a true thing that happens in the studio. That happened at Valve a lot. Is they would, like, they thought so highly of themselves that they're like, there's no way that we can make anything that's crazy bad. Like, apparently that's why Valve was so shook by the release of Artifact, because Artifact came out and it was not well received, and they were like, what?
I forget that game is even a thing.
Yeah, well, they're remaking it basically right now. They're making a virtual circle or something. There's a team at Valve working on it.
That we'll probably never see.
No, it might come out. They've been putting updates out and stuff like that, so like it'll probably come out. Yeah, it's in like open beta. I feel like I think I saw that. Not an open beta, but like private beta, where like they send out codes and whatever. But yeah.
Or like apparently just there are some employees will just have whenever people question, be like, okay, how will we get all this to work? They'll just be like, we'll figure it out along the way.
Yeah.
It's
who knows? Who cares?
It's like, okay, that might have gotten you far in the last 3 installments, but like God.
Okay, there's some funny breaking news. Go ahead, Will. Finish.
I'm saying like this really should be their wake up call, because this is technically like the first like I would see like failure that they've had.
Yeah.
So it should hopefully show that they are not gods amongst this business.
Out of all of like the games that like have blown up over the course of the last decade due to like development expectations or like they overpromised or whatever, this felt like a season finale. Because of the reaction to this and, like, the developer that it happened to, which is, like, one of the... Like, people kind of forget this now, but, like, CD Projekt Red was being compared to, like, Golden Era Valve. You know, like people were saying that, like, CD Projekt Red, it might be the best developer in the world after Cyberpunk. I was saying things like that. So, like, this is, like, a historic, like, screw-up on this.
Yeah, I remember you were, like, pretty excited for this after The Witcher.
Yeah, I was like, this could be the really big break, because Witcher 3, like, they knew it was going to be a big deal, but they didn't know how big a deal it was going to be. And before that point, they were still, like, people would, like, pay attention when a Witcher game would come out, but everybody was kind of like, okay, cool. That's another one. It's another RPG. Neat. You know, but Witcher 3, like, exploded. And so.
Just CDPR, please learn from this and actually become a better studio because of it. Do not follow the ways of EA.
I don't think that... I mean, I hate to be mean, Will, but it's kind of like a cartoonish view of, like, game development. A lot of the people that were there knew that these problems were on the rise. Like, a lot of these people, like, knew. They said the higher-ups, like, hey, this is not going to work out. You know, and, like, everybody likes to compare it to EA, but EA's problems are not really... They never really had a problem outside of Anthem of putting a game out on time and undercooking it. Like, they've only undercooked, like, really 2 games. Everything else that just came out, like, it's just been subpar though. Like, it's been like, oh, this used to be a really good developer, and then you bought them and you told them what to do, and now they don't make such good games anymore. Which is interesting because actually Microsoft now says they tell their studios that, like, hey, we'll leave you alone now because we've learned what happened at EA. So it's actually like partially a positive that EA even did that, because it showed Microsoft, hey, don't mess with studios, just let them do what they want and they'll make something good for you. Usually, it's interesting.
Okay, then maybe I should probably say the lead developers of this game learn.
Yeah, like studio
how to
heads and
manage.
Things like that. But
Okay,
it's not something that they ever learned, though, because the reason why they did it was because of money. You know, they wanted it out right away. It was like in a phone call immediately after the release of the game, where investors were like, was there any pressure on you to release this game faster than you thought? And the answer was no.
Oh yeah, because they purely wanted that holiday release.
Yeah. They were like desperate to get it out that year.
Yeah. And now they have like 2 class action lawsuits, possibly a third coming their way.
Yeah, a fourth actually.
Yeah, it's all.
Oh god. Oh
yeah, it's. It was basically like that like meme I saw like a little while ago, where it was like, I think I showed it to my 2 friends here, but it was like, delay the game so the game will be better. Crunch the game so it will be worse, and he presses both buttons.
Yeah, it's such a mess, and it totally didn't need to happen. But like, CD Projekt has a great war chest. They could have held on for another year if they really wanted to. They could have eased the pressure on the developers to not get them worn out, because now they're really in a screwed position. Okay, we have to delay the DLC a year. Everybody's crunched, so everybody's like exhausted from working on this, and it's a total mess.
Foobar, we're foobar.
Yeah, like it's what a mess. I feel so bad for the developers in that game. I feel so bad because a lot of them are like burnt out. They do not want to like do that anymore. They do not want to work on Cyberpunk. They're just done, you know. But you can't because now you got to do post-launch support. Now you got to do DLC. The DLC has been delayed, so now you got to do DLC. 2 years of this or 3 years of it instead of just like the 1.5 or 2, or you know.
Yeah, isn't that? Yeah, that's the entire thing. That it's basically, I feel it's basically become like the like 10 years develop 10 year what is it support is like the new way that everyone wants to go now.
Well, yeah.
That's like almost like a standard for like a bunch of like AAA developers.
I don't know. It's just a terrible thing that happened.
I don't know.
Anyway, there was some mildly funny breaking news that just happened. Joe Biden got rid of the Diet Coke button on the Oval Office desk that Trump had. There was a Diet Coke button.
That can't be real.
Diet Coke.
That can't be real.
No, it's real.
Oh my god.
And I can send like the Twitter.
Hold on. The thing that's killing me is not that there's that he gets it so much that he needs a designated button to get Diet Coke for him. Do you think that the Oval Office has like a little like faucet, like a little like drink dispenser?
That's so funny. That's so funny. And also, there was a reference to it on Family Guy that everybody thought was fake, and it was actually true.
Like, how? Do you think he spent taxpayer money on that?
Oh yeah, it's the executive branch. So
absolutely, absolutely, 100%. And then what? And if I may be so bold, dollars will spend.
So yeah, so Diet Coke is trending on Twitter because of that. That's so funny.
That's great.
Get a little comedy here. Yeah. You know, we have fun here. We have fun here. That's like the quote number 1 of like every like asshole corporation. We have fun here. Don't talk about the data.
So there's a couple news items that we don't have to go into too much. The Halo websites are shutting down, so if you are interested in getting your save data from that, you should probably go grab that.
Not about Halo save.
Yeah.
I love Halo.
I love the Halo. So yeah, they're shutting that down by the end, like halfway through February. I don't think anybody really cares about that at this point, but that's something that's interesting. Valve was caught geolocking. I had no idea what the hell geolocking was until
Okay,
this
so that wasn't just
article
me.
showed.
Yeah, I guess because do you want to at least give like a brief overview for our listeners?
You can go ahead and try that. Yeah.
Me? Oh, I got caught with my pants down.
I mean, okay, so from what I understand from geolocking, it's that basically some regions, in some regions, some games can be priced higher, and there's no way for them to purchase cheaper versions like outside of said country. Or
Oh, okay. So it's kind of like that thing of like, because I know like there's some people. I remember that when Seth Sorokowski. I think that's the right person. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it was talking like getting like saying like, hey, if you can get it's like this game's like $20, but in Argentinian pesos or whatever.
Right.
The fuck,
Yeah.
It's only like $15 or like $5.
it's effectively a form of region locking.
All right. Well, I suppose that makes sense of like it makes sense of why they would do that, but yeah, I don't know.
Well, apparently, according to this article, the practice of geoblocking, it breaches antitrust rules.
That's interesting.
So,
Oh, really?
yeah, and apparently the companies that or the publishers that are getting sued, or not sued, that are currently like under fire is Bandai Namco, Capcom, Focus Home, Koch Media, and ZeniMax.
Yeah. Which ZeniMax is about to like not really exist in like a year here. Because they're about to be Microsoft. So anyway, that was kind of an interesting thing.
So maybe that comes out of Microsoft's paycheck.
I cut that last story because I just didn't feel like talking about it. And so every week on this podcast, we're going to talk about like a game or a album or a movie or whatever we like assigned ourselves. And Will got to go first. We had like a random draw earlier. And so Will gets to pick the first bit of media that we'll talk about next week on the podcast. Maybe the week after, we'll see if everybody has time to beat it. It's like it's a 6-hour game, right? So
yeah,
shouldn't be too long. So
yeah,
Will, what is the game that you have assigned for us?
I have you guys play through Spec Ops: The Line.
Yeah, I just did that recently. So,
oh wow,
what a surprise! Surprise! I'm shocked, Pikachu.
Surprise!
Yeah, I've I at least know a little bit about it, but I've never really like done a playthrough of the game.
So if you guys want to be listen to the conversation about Spec Ops: The Line with spoilers, by the way, we're gonna go in depth on the game. Go ahead and play Spec Ops: The Line. It should be pretty cheap. It's also on PS Now if you want to do that. I'm not sure if it's on Game Pass or not, but I'm sure that's a quick Google away. Anyway, thanks for listening to the first episode of the Media Cocktail Podcast. Hope you enjoyed it. This is kind of like it's just a fun thing for us to do for a while. So if you like it, please let us know.